When I left the hospital, I was supposed to be holding the happiest moment of my life in my arms. But the second I looked into that baby's eyes, something inside me shattered. A mother knows her child, Fang, and this wasn't mine.
I begged the nurses, I pleaded with the doctors, but no one listened. They all told me I was wrong, that I was just overwhelmed. But I know the truth. The baby they gave me is not mine. My name is Sarah Matthews, and what I'm about to tell you will make you question everything you think you know about trusting the system. 3 days earlier, I had walked into St. Catherine's Medical Center in downtown Portland, Oregon, excited about meeting my daughter Emma for the first time. The labor started normally but quickly became hell. Emma's heart rate dropped, and suddenly I was rushed into emergency surgery. The last thing I remembered was Mark's terrified face as they wheeled me away. When I woke up 18 hours later, a smiling nurse placed a tiny bundle in my arms. "Congratulations, Mrs. Matthews. Here's your beautiful baby girl." But as I looked down at the sleeping infant, my world stopped. This baby had jet black hair and olive skin. Mark and I are both pale with light hair. Every ultrasound had shown Emma with fine, light-colored hair. "There's been a mistake," I whispered. "This isn't my baby." The nurses smiled-eyed. "Mrs. Matthews, I know this is overwhelming, but no," I said, surprising myself. "Look at her. Look at us. This child doesn't belong to us, doctor." Rodriguez entered with that patronizing smile I would learn to hate. "Sarah, you've been through tremendous trauma. Many mothers experience confusion about their baby's appearance." "I'm not confused," I said, my voice shaking. "I carried this child for 9 months. This baby is not mine." Mark appeared, looking haggard. When he saw the baby, I caught a flicker of confusion in his eyes. But then doubt crept in, doubt in me, not in what we were seeing. "Honey, she's beautiful," he said carefully. "Maybe she just looks different because what, Mark?" "Because I'm crazy, doctor." Rodriguez scribbled notes while the nurse checked monitors, both clearly uncomfortable. "Mrs. Matthews," he said finally, "I'm recommending a psychiatric consultation. Postpartum anxiety can cause confusion about, get out." The words came as a growl. "All of you get out of my room." As they left, whispering among themselves, I held this precious baby close and studied her face. She was beautiful, with perfect features and alert dark eyes. But she wasn't Emma. Every cell in my body was screaming that this child belonged to someone else. Mark sat heavily beside my bed. "Sarah, what if you're wrong? What if the medication is affecting your judgment?" I stared at my husband, the man who was supposed to support me through anything, and realized I was completely alone. "Mark, I'm going to do whatever it takes to find our real daughter. I can do this with your support or I can do it alone. But I am going to do it." The baby stirred in my arms, making soft sounds that broke my heart. She needed her real mother. And somewhere in this hospital, Emma was crying for me. But what I discovered next would change everything. The next morning brought a parade of medical staff trying to convince me I was wrong. But their attempts to gaslight me only made me more determined. I had spent the entire night studying this baby's features, and I was more certain than ever. That's when I noticed something that stopped my heart. I was changing her diaper when I saw it, a small birthmark on her left shoulder. During my final ultrasound, the technician had pointed out a distinctive crescent-shaped birthmark in that exact location, but this birthmark was different. This one was star-shaped, not crescent-shaped. I grabbed my pregnancy journal where I had sketched Emma's birthmark. The difference was unmistakable. "Mark," I called urgently, "look at this." He examined both marks. For the first time since this nightmare began, I saw doubt creep into his eyes, doubt about the hospital's version, not about me. "That's definitely not the same shape," he admitted. "It's not just different, Mark. It's a completely different birthmark. Which means this is absolutely not Emma." A knock interrupted us. A young nurse I hadn't met entered nervously. "Mrs. Matthews. I'm Jenny. I worked in the nursery the night your daughter was born. I heard about your concerns and I wanted to talk privately." She glanced around nervously. "Look, I could lose my job for this, but something strange happened that night. There was chaos during the shift change. Both babies were moved around for monitoring after complicated deliveries." She paused, wringing her hands. "In all that chaos, it's possible two babies could have been accidentally switched. The protocols are supposed to prevent it, but if someone was rushing..." My hands started shaking. "Jenny, who was the other baby?" "Baby girl Rodriguez. Born about an hour before yours. Her parents are in room 314. "Rodriguez. The same last name as my doctor. Wait, I said, my mind racing. Doctor Rodriguez is treating someone with his same last name? Jenny's face went pale. I can't discuss other patients. But her expression told me everything. After Jenny left, Mark and I sat stunned. My obstetrician, the man dismissing my concerns, might have his own baby mixed up in this. If his family had received the wrong baby, he'd have every reason to cover it up. This is insane, Mark whispered. You think Dr. Rodriguez knows and is covering up? Think about it. If his own child was switched with ours, acknowledging the mistake would end his career. Malpractice lawsuits, professional sanctions, maybe criminal charges. He has everything to lose. I started pacing. We need to get to room 314. I need to see Mrs. Rodriguez and her baby. Sarah, you can't just barge in making accusations. I'm not making accusations. I'm asking a mother if she has doubts about her baby. But as I reached for the door, Mark grabbed my arm. What if you're wrong? What if you traumatize this family for nothing? I looked at the baby sleeping in her bassinet. She deserved to be with her real family. And Emma deserved to be with us. Mark, I'd rather be wrong and embarrassed than right and have done nothing. Quick question for you watching. This story takes place in Portland, but hospital mix-ups have happened across America. Have you heard of similar cases in your city? Drop your city name in the comments. It helps us understand how widespread this issue really is. What I was about to discover would reveal a conspiracy deeper than I ever imagined. The walk to room 314 felt like walking to my execution. Every step brought me closer to answers that could either save my sanity or destroy what was left of it. I knocked softly. Mrs. Rodriguez, my name is Sarah Matthews. Could I speak with you? The door opened to reveal a woman my age with long, dark hair and exhausted eyes. But what stopped my heart was the baby in her arms, an infant with wisps of blonde hair on delicate features that looked exactly like what I'd expected Emma to look like. Yes, she said cautiously. I know this sounds crazy, but I think our babies were switched. Instead of shock, her face crumpled with relief. Oh, thank God, she whispered, tears streaming. I thought I was losing my mind. Carmen Rodriguez invited us in, and what she told us shattered everything. From the moment they put her in my arms, I knew something was wrong, she said, bouncing the blonde baby. My husband Miguel and I both have dark hair and olive skin. Our 3-year-old son Diego looks exactly like us. But this baby, she gestured to the infant who clearly wasn't theirs biologically. Everyone kept saying babies can look different, that genetics are complicated. But Sarah, I'm a high school biology teacher. I understand genetics. Two dark-haired parents with brown eyes cannot produce a blonde-haired, blue-eyed child. Have you talked to Dr. Rodriguez? Mark asked. Carmen's expression darkened. That's the worst part. When I mentioned my doubts, he became defensive, almost angry. He suggested psychiatric medication. But there's something else. She looked around nervously. What, doctor? Rodriguez is my husband's cousin. Miguel requested him because we trusted family. The room fell silent. Doctor Rodriguez wasn't just covering up a random error, he was protecting his own family. Carmen, has Miguel seen the baby I've been caring for? We walked past your room yesterday. He stopped dead, saying that baby looked exactly like Diego at birth. But when he mentioned it to Dr. Rodriguez, he was told he was imagining things. I showed Carmen the photos of both birthmarks, the crescent shape from my ultrasound and the star shape on my baby. Does your baby have any birthmarks? She pulled back the blanket, revealing a small crescent-shaped mark on the baby's left shoulder. Identical to my ultrasound. This is Emma, I whispered, reaching toward my daughter. This is my baby. Carmen cried harder. I've been caring for your daughter for 3 days, and you've been caring for mine. Well, Dr. Rodriguez convinced everyone we were having breakdowns. Mark studied both babies analytically. The evidence is overwhelming. But we need to be careful. If Dr. Rodriguez is covering this up, he won't admit it just because we confront him. What should we do? Carmen asked. Before I could answer, the door burst open. Dr. Rodriguez walked in, face flushed with anger. What is going on here? He demanded. Mrs. Matthews, you have no business upsetting my patients with paranoid theories. The possessiveness in his voice was chilling. Dr. Rodriguez, I said calmly, we both have legitimate concerns about our babies' identities. You're spreading hysteria, he snapped. Mrs. Rodriguez, I thought we discussed this. You're experiencing normal postpartum anxiety. Carmen stood, holding my Emma, her voice stronger than before. Uncle Eduardo, I am not experiencing anxiety. I'm an intelligent woman who knows when something is wrong. This baby is not biologically mine and Miguel's. The use of Uncle Eduardo confirmed our worst fears. Doctor Rodriguez's professional mask slipped. Carmen, you will not destroy my career over some ridiculous fantasy. Both babies are exactly where they belong. To what? I interrupted. To tell the truth? His eyes were wild. He was trapped and desperate. You have no proof, he said, voice shaking. Carmen smiled, her first genuine smile. Actually, Uncle Eduardo, we do have proof. And you just gave us more. Here's my question for you. If you discovered a doctor was covering up their own mistake involving your child, would you trust the system to handle it? Or would you take matters into your own hands? Let me know in the comments. But what happened next would test everything we thought we knew about fighting for our children. Within 2 hours, everything exploded. Carmen and I had barely started planning when hospital security appeared with official documents. Mrs. Matthews, Mrs. Rodriguez, I'm Security Director James Mitchell. You're being discharged immediately for disruptive behavior and threats against medical staff. I stared in shock. Disruptive behavior? What threats? According to Dr. Rodriguez's report, you've made unfounded accusations, interfered with patient care, and created a hostile environment. Mark grabbed the papers. This is insane. Sarah hasn't threatened anyone. Both families need to be packed in 2 hours. As security left, I realized Dr. Rodriguez's strategy. By kicking us out, he was separating us from evidence, isolating us from potential allies, and forcing us to fight from the outside where we'd have less credibility. But he underestimated how far to determined mothers would go. I immediately called my sister Jessica, a paralegal in Seattle. Jess, I need emergency legal help. To switched babies, a doctor covering it up, and we're being kicked out in 2 hours. After I explained everything, she said, Sarah, this is unbelievable. But you need to be careful. Document everything immediately. What do you mean? Take pictures of both babies, especially birthmarks. Record conversations. Get medical records before leaving. And find a medical malpractice attorney who can file emergency motions. I started photographing everything. But when I tried getting medical records, I was told there was a computer system problem. Carmen called from her room. They're saying Sophia needs more monitoring and can't be discharged. I think they're trying to keep her here so we can't get independent testing. My heart sank. If they kept the babies under hospital control, they could prevent us from getting proof. We need both girls out today, even if we discharge against medical advice. Miguel is scared. He's worried about Dr. Rodriguez's threats about his construction business. He gets a lot of income from hospital contracts. Dr. Rodriguez wasn't just threatening our credibility, he was threatening our livelihoods. Mark made a suggestion that changed everything. What if we go to the media before leaving? If this becomes public, it's harder for Dr. Rodriguez to continue the cover-up, but the publicity could follow Emma and Sophia forever. Is it fair to let them grow up with wrong families because we feared embarrassment? We called Channel 12's investigative reporter Amanda Chen, who had a reputation for exposing medical fraud. Ms. Chen, we have documented evidence of baby switches and cover-ups at St. Catherine's Medical Center. She arrived within 90 minutes with cameras and a legal advisor, but Dr. Rodriguez had been busy too. Hospital Administrator Margaret Walsh met Amanda in the lobby with her own statement. Channel 12 has been contacted by 2 emotionally disturbed mothers experiencing severe postpartum episodes, she announced. These patients have made unfounded accusations and are refusing psychiatric treatment. We're concerned for their mental health and their children's safety. Watching the live broadcast from my room, I felt my world crumble. They were painting us as dangerous, unstable women whose children might need protection. They're calling Child Protective Services, Mark said grimly. If they get both babies in custody, they control everything and prevent testing indefinitely. That's when I made the hardest decision of my life. Mark, we're leaving right now. With both babies. Sarah, if we take them against medical advice, they could charge us with kidnapping. And if we leave them here, we may never see them again. I called Carmen. We're taking the girls and leaving in 30 minutes. Are you with us? Long pause. Miguel thinks I've lost my mind, but I can't let them take her. 20 minutes later, Carmen appeared with Emma, tears streaming. Miguel thinks I'm crazy, but I can't abandon her. As we walked toward the exit, I knew we were crossing a point of no return. We were about to become fugitives in our fight for our children. But I had no idea our escape would be the easy part compared to what came next. The next 24 hours were pure terror. After leaving with both babies, Mark and I checked into a motel outside Portland under false names while Carmen and Miguel went to her sister's in Salem. We were officially fugitives, and the media was brutal. The news coverage painted us as unstable women who had kidnapped children. Dr. Rodriguez appeared on multiple channels as the concerned physician trying to protect children from mentally ill mothers. These women are experiencing severe postpartum psychotic episodes, he said on TV. They've constructed elaborate fantasies about baby switches. Our primary concern is these innocent children's safety. Getting genetic testing was nearly impossible. Most labs required court orders for minors, especially when parental rights were disputed, with the hospital claiming we'd kidnapped the babies. Judges were reluctant to authorize testing that might validate apparent criminal behavior. We need a different approach, our attorney David Kim explained. Instead of proving the babies were switched, we need to prove the hospital is lying about their medical care. That afternoon, I got an unexpected call from Jenny, the nurse who'd first told us about the chaotic shift change. Mrs. Matthews, I need to meet privately. There are things you need to know. We met at a coffee shop in Beaverton, Jenny constantly looking over her shoulder. After you left, Dr. Rodriguez called all nursing staff from that night into a meeting. He said if anyone spoke to reporters or lawyers about the deliveries, they'd be fired for violating patient confidentiality. My heart raced. So there was something irregular, Mrs. Matthews. I've been a delivery nurse for 12 years. I've never seen anything like those shift changes. Both babies were moved multiple times. Their identification bracelets were removed and replaced at least twice. Why would bracelets need changing? No legitimate medical reason. When I asked the charge nurse, she said Dr. Rodriguez ordered it but couldn't explain why. Jenny showed me photos on her phone. I photograph all identification bracelets for documentation. Look at these. The photos showed clearly different bracelets with different printing styles and even different information. One showed baby girl Matthews with birth time 11:47 p.m. Another showed 11:52 p.m. Jenny. This proves the identification system was compromised. There's more. I pulled original medical records before the system was updated. They showed different birth weights, complications, and monitoring notes than what's in the system now. She handed me printed records contradicting everything Dr. Rodriguez had told us. Why are you showing me this? Jenny's eyes filled with tears. Because I have a daughter too. If someone switched my baby and covered it up, I'd want someone to help me find the truth. With this evidence, David Kim filed an emergency motion for genetic testing based on documented medical record discrepancies rather than maternal accusations. But Dr. Rodriguez wasn't finished. The next morning, police appeared at my motel door. Mrs. Matthews, you're under arrest for kidnapping and child endangerment, as they handcuffed me. I saw Carmen being arrested on live TV at her sister's house. Mark was allowed custody of both babies, but only because Child Protective Services couldn't immediately place them in foster care. We'd kept the girls together, but Carmen and I were in jail while the people who created this nightmare remained free. This is exactly what Dr. Rodriguez wanted, I told David during his jail visit. With us locked up, he controls the narrative and prevents testing. Sarah, Jenny's evidence is powerful, but we need more. We need someone from inside the hospital to testify about the cover-up. That gave me an idea. David, what if other doctors noticed irregularities but were afraid to speak up? What if we find them and convince them that staying silent is more dangerous than telling the truth? The next morning brought news that would change everything completely. The person who ultimately saved us was someone we'd never met, Dr. Patricia Williams, the pediatrician scheduled to examine both babies before our dramatic exit. Dr. Williams had practiced neonatal medicine for 20 years and noticed irregularities in both babies' L's that made no sense. When she tried discussing concerns with Dr. Rodriguez, she was told to focus on her own patients, but Dr. Williams wasn't the type to ignore potential problems affecting newborns. She quietly began investigating, reviewing security footage and interviewing staff about our delivery night. What she discovered was enough to convince her to contact our attorney, Mr. Kim. She said, I have documented evidence of at least 6 protocol violations that night. More importantly, I have proof Dr. Rodriguez has been altering medical records to cover up what happened. David immediately filed a motion to have Carmen and me released based on Dr. Williams's testimony. The judge agreed, citing credible medical testimony supporting our claims. Walking out of jail after 3 days felt like emerging from a nightmare, but our fight was far from over. Genetic testing was scheduled for the following week, but Dr. Rodriguez made one last desperate attempt to prevent the truth. he filed a counter-motion, claiming Dr. Williams was a disgruntled employee with personal grudges and requested both babies be placed in protective custody until psychiatric evaluations could be completed on Carmen and me. The custody hearing took place in a packed courtroom, with national media covering what had become the Portland baby switch case. Judge Patricia Hamilton listened as Dr. Williams presented her evidence. She showed security footage clearly demonstrating babies being moved without proper documentation, medical records altered after the fact, and testimony from 3 nurses admitting they'd been instructed to stay silent about irregularities. But the most damning evidence came from an unexpected source, the hospital's own computer system. Your Honor, Dr. Williams testified, when medical records are altered in our electronic system, changes are automatically logged with timestamps and user IDs. I access these logs through my administrative privileges. She presented printouts showing Dr. Rodriguez had accessed and modified both babies' records multiple times in the days following birth, always during late-night hours when fewer staff were present. These modifications included changing birth weights, altering delivery times, and removing references to complications that would have required moving babies between units. Rodriguez's attorney tried discrediting Dr. Williams, but her evidence was too comprehensive and her reputation too solid. Judge Hamilton ruled, while the court recognizes the unusual nature of these allegations, evidence suggests serious irregularities in medical record keeping. The court orders genetic testing within 48 hours, with results sealed until reviewed. Carmen and I held each other and cried. After weeks of being called crazy and hysterical, we finally had official recognition that our concerns were legitimate. But Dr. Rodriguez had one final card to play. That evening, he held a press conference outside the courthouse, flanked by the hospital's legal team. What you're witnessing is a coordinated attack on medical professionals by opportunistic lawyers and unstable patients seeking financial gain, he began. He characterized Dr. Williams as a disgruntled employee and claimed the medical record modifications were routine updates part of normal patient care. These women have traumatized their own children, disrupted an entire medical facility, and wasted countless court time pursuing fantasies that exist only in their disturbed minds. Watching him lie so smoothly on live television was chilling. If I hadn't lived this nightmare, I might have believed him. But the next morning brought the moment we'd been fighting for, genetic testing day. The procedure took place at an independent laboratory with representatives from both legal teams present. As technicians collected DNA samples from both babies and all for parents, I felt terror and vindication. In 72 hours, we'd know definitively whether our fight was justified or whether we'd destroyed our families pursuing delusion. Carmen squeezed my hand as samples were labeled and sealed. Whatever happens, she whispered, I'm grateful we fought together. We're about to prove trusting our instincts was right, I replied, though privately I was terrified of being wrong. The call came at 2:47 p.m. on a Thursday that would change our lives forever, Mrs. Matthews, David said carefully, I have the results. My heart stopped. Tell me. Sarah, you were right. About everything. The genetic testing results were crystal clear. Emma was my biological daughter, and Sophia was Carmen's. After 3 weeks of being called delusional and mentally unstable, we had definitive scientific proof that our maternal instincts had been right all along. But standing in that courthouse as Judge Hamilton read the results aloud, I felt something I hadn't expected, heartbreak mixed with triumph. The court finds that baby girl Rodriguez, currently known as Emma, is the biological daughter of Sarah and Mark Matthews. Baby girl Matthews, currently known as Sophia, is the biological daughter of Carmen and Miguel Rodriguez. The judge looked directly at Dr. Rodriguez, who sat ashen-faced at the defendant's table. Furthermore, the court finds compelling evidence that Dr. Eduardo Rodriguez was aware of this switch and deliberately concealed it. Dr. Rodriguez, you will surrender your medical license pending investigation. The district attorney will review this case for criminal charges. Carmen and I embraced, tears streaming. We had won, but victory felt bittersweet. Here's what no one tells you about getting what you want. Sometimes it hurts just as much as losing. The actual exchange took place that afternoon in a private courthouse room, with child psychologists present. Carmen placed my Emma in my arms while I gently handed Sophia to her. Holding my biological daughter felt indescribable. She seemed familiar in ways deeper than logic. Her scent, her weight, even her movements matched some internal blueprint I hadn't known I possessed. But watching Sophia leave my arms was devastating. For 3 weeks, she had depended on me for everything. I knew her feeding schedule, sleep patterns, favorite comfort positions. She was innocent, and I worried how separation would affect her. "Will they remember us?" Carmen asked, voicing our shared concern. "They're so young," the psychologist assured us. "At this age, babies are remarkably resilient. Consistent, loving care is what matters most, Dr. Rodriguez was escorted out in handcuffs, charged with fraud, conspiracy, and child endangerment. His fall from respected physician to convicted criminal was swift and complete. The hospital settled our lawsuit for enough to secure both girls' futures and fund ongoing advocacy work. More importantly, St. Catherine's implemented comprehensive new protocols for infant identification and patient complaint resolution. But here's the truth about winning: it's complicated. The first weeks were challenging as we all adjusted. Emma had spent 3 crucial weeks with Carmen's family, initially seeming to prefer sounds and movements Carmen had used to soothe her. There were nights she cried inconsolably, and I wondered if she was mourning separation from her temporary mother. Mark and I attended therapy to process our trauma and guilt. I struggled with complicated feelings about Sophia, grieving the loss of a child who was never really mine while celebrating my biological daughter's return. "It's normal to feel attached to both babies," our therapist explained. "You formed real bonds with Sophia. Acknowledging that loss doesn't diminish your joy about Emma." Carmen and I decided to maintain contact, partly because we thought it might help the girls understand their unique history, and partly because our shared experience had created permanent bonds between our families. 6 months later, we attended Dr. Rodriguez's sentencing. He had pled guilty to multiple felonies in exchange for reduced sentences, but would still serve 2 years and lose his license permanently. During his statement, he offered what seemed like genuine apology. "Your Honor, I made the worst mistake of my career, not when I accidentally allowed those babies to be switched, but when I chose cover-up instead of immediately correcting the error. I let fear override my duty to patients and families." He turned to look at us directly. "Mrs. Matthews, Mrs. Rodriguez, I am profoundly sorry for the pain I caused. You trusted me with the most precious moments of your lives, and I betrayed that trust completely. I hope someday you might find it in your hearts to forgive me." I had spent months hating Dr. Rodriguez, but seeing him broken, facing complete career collapse, I felt mostly sadness for everyone involved. "Drive, Rodriguez," I said when given opportunity to address the court, "what you did was inexcusable. But I hope other medical professionals learn from your mistakes. I hope hospitals take patient concerns more seriously. I hope no other family fights as hard as we did to protect their children." The judge sentenced him to 18 months in prison, 5 years probation, and permanent license revocation. As we left that courthouse, I realized our ordeal was finally over. Emma was home, healthy, thriving. The responsible parties had been held accountable. Systems had been changed to prevent similar situations. But the most important lesson was still to come. 2 years later, Emma is a happy, healthy toddler showing no lasting effects from her traumatic first month. She's curious, affectionate, and completely bonded with Mark and me. Looking at her now, it's hard to believe we almost lost her to medical cover-up. Carmen and I remained close friends, our daughters growing up considering themselves special sisters. Emma and Sophia play together weekly, completely comfortable moving between both families. They have twice as many people loving them as most children. "Mama Sarah," Sophia calls when she sees me, while Emma refers to Carmen as Mama Carmen. The children naturally created vocabulary acknowledging their unique situation while making it feel completely normal. Our experience led us into advocacy work we never expected but find deeply meaningful. Carmen and I co-founded the Patient Advocacy Foundation for Medical Errors, helping families navigate similar crises and pushing for legislative changes improving hospital accountability. We've testified before state legislatures, spoken at medical conferences, and consulted on hospital policy changes nationwide. Our story became a case study in medical ethics courses and patient rights seminars. "Every family we help validates what we went through," Carmen said during our recent speaking engagement at Johns Hopkins. "If sharing our pain prevents one other family from facing this nightmare, everything we suffered was worthwhile." The settlement allowed us to establish college funds for both girls and create an endowment for medical error prevention research. More importantly, it gave us freedom to pursue advocacy work full-time. Mark initially worried that staying involved in medical error prevention would trap us in trauma. But I found that helping other families has actually been healing. Last month, I received a call from Jennifer Walsh in Denver, a mother whose situation was remarkably similar to ours. Her baby had been switched, the hospital was dismissing concerns, and her family was doubting her sanity. "Mrs. Matthews, I found your story online, and it gave me hope that I'm not crazy," she said through tears. "Will you help me?" I spent hours sharing our experience and connecting her with specialized attorneys. Within 2 weeks, genetic testing confirmed her suspicions, and both babies were returned to correct families. "You saved my family," Jennifer told me afterward. "If I hadn't found your story, I might have given up and lived with doubt forever." These conversations happen several times yearly. Our story has become a lifeline for parents facing similar situations, and each successful resolution reinforces our decision to go public. Emma and Sophia understand their story in age-appropriate ways. They know they were born the same day, lived with each other's families for their first weeks, and that their parents worked very hard to make sure each girl ended up with her right family. "When I grow up, I want to help mommies find their babies too," Emma announced recently, echoing my own commitment to continuing this work. The hospital where our nightmare began has undergone dramatic changes, new identification protocols, enhanced staff training, and improved patient complaint procedures have been implemented. Nursing staff now receives specific education about trusting parental instincts and taking patient concerns seriously. Dr. Rodriguez was released from prison last year, working as a medical supply salesman, the only healthcare job he's eligible for with his criminal record. He sent us a letter on Emma's second birthday, expressing continued remorse and gratitude that we fought to expose truth. "Your persistence probably prevented other families from experiencing this trauma," he wrote. "I know I have no right to ask forgiveness, but I hope you know I think about your courage every day and try to honor it by being a better person." I never responded but kept the letter. Someday, when Emma's old enough to understand her story's full complexity, she might want to read it. Mark and I have grown stronger as a couple, facing such intense crisis together, supporting each other through doubt and criticism, and emerging victorious has given us confidence that we can handle whatever life throws at us. The settlement's financial security has also allowed choices we never could have afforded. We've traveled extensively, exposing Emma to different cultures and experiences. We've supported causes we care about. Most importantly, we've had the luxury of time to bond with Emma, heal from trauma, help other families in crisis. But perhaps the most unexpected outcome has been the perspective our experience gave us on what really matters. Material possessions seem less important now. Career achievements feel secondary to family relationships. We've learned to trust our instincts, speak up when something feels wrong, and never underestimate persistent advocacy power. "We're different people than before this happened," Carmen observed during our family's recent joint vacation. "We're stronger, more confident, and less willing to accept things that don't feel right." She's absolutely right. The experience that nearly broke us ultimately transformed us into more effective advocates, better parents, and stronger people. And Emma, the daughter we fought so hard to bring home, has taught us the most important lesson of all. Today, Emma is a bright, confident 5-year-old who loves science experiments and building elaborate block towers with her sister Sophia. She knows her birth story and is proud of how her parents refused to give up on bringing her home. The legal battles are over, media attention has faded, and our lives have settled into a beautiful routine. But the lessons from those desperate first weeks continue shaping everything we do as a family and as advocates for other parents facing medical crises. Just last month, I got another call that reminded me why our fight mattered so much. Maria Santos from Phoenix was sobbing as she described a heartbreakingly familiar situation. "Mrs. Matthews, they're telling me I'm having a mental breakdown, but I know this baby isn't mine. The hospital won't listen, my husband is starting to doubt me, and I don't know what to do." I spent 3 hours sharing our story, connecting her with legal resources, and most importantly, validating her maternal instincts. "Trust yourself," I told her, the same words that kept me fighting during my darkest moments. "Document everything. Don't let anyone convince you that you're imagining things. Your real baby needs you to be her advocate." 2 weeks later, Maria called back with news that genetic testing had confirmed her suspicions. Her daughter had been switched with another family's baby, and both children were being returned to their biological parents. Her case was resolved much faster than ours, partly because hospitals now have better protocols, and partly because our story established legal precedents making it easier to compel testing. "You saved my family," she said through happy tears. "If I hadn't found your story online, I might have given up and lived with doubt forever." These conversations happen regularly now. Our story has become a beacon of hope for parents in impossible situations, fighting institutional resistance and self-doubt. Each successful resolution validates our pain and reinforces our belief that speaking out was absolutely right. Emma and Sophia, now 5 years old, understand their unique story in ways that continue to amaze us. They know they were born the same day, spent their first weeks with each other's families, and that their parents had to be very brave to make sure each girl ended up where she belonged. "Mama Sarah was like a detective finding the right baby," Sophia explained to her preschool class during show and tell. "And my mama Carmen was her partner, and together they solved the mystery." Their innocent perspective often provides the clearest view of what we accomplished. To them, we're not victims of medical malpractice, we're heroes who solved a puzzle and reunited families. The Patient Advocacy Foundation we established has helped over 200 families navigate medical crises. Legislative changes we helped pass have been adopted by hospitals in 12 states. Medical schools now use our story as a teaching case about listening to patients. But the most profound changes have been personal. Our experience taught us life lessons that transformed how we approach every challenge. Trust your instincts, especially about your children. Parental intuition exists for biological reasons. When something feels fundamentally wrong, that feeling deserves investigation, not dismissal. Don't let anyone convince you to ignore your deepest knowledge about your own child. Persistence can overcome institutional resistance. Hospitals and corporations have reasons to avoid acknowledging mistakes. But individual determination, combined with documentation and legal support, can force even powerful institutions to face truth. Don't give up just because the first 10 people tell you no. Find allies and build coalitions. Carmen and I were much stronger together than either could have been alone. When fighting for what's right, look for others who share your concerns. Support each other, share resources, and remember that most battles are won by teams, not individuals. But here's what I want to know from you. Have you ever had to fight a system that told you that you were wrong? Have you ever had to trust your gut against expert advice? Drop a comment and tell me about a time when your instincts were right, even when everyone doubted you. Document everything and preserve evidence. In any dispute with institutions, your memory alone won't be enough. Take pictures, record conversations where legally permitted, save emails, and create written records. Evidence wins cases, not emotions. Prepare for emotional complexity. Getting what we wanted, reuniting with our biological daughters, was wonderful, but it also meant grieving babies we had bonded with during those crucial early weeks. Right outcomes aren't always easy outcomes. Emma's kindergarten teacher recently asked children to draw their families. Emma's drawing included not just Mark and me, but also Carmen, Miguel, Sophia, and even Dr. Williams, the pediatrician who helped save us. When I asked about it, she said simply, "They're all part of my story, so they're all part of my family." Her wisdom reminds me that even traumatic experiences can create unexpected blessings. Our fight to bring Emma home gave us an extended chosen family, a life purpose we never anticipated, and relationships that will enrich her entire life. The hospital where our nightmare began has undergone dramatic changes. New identification protocols, enhanced staff training, and improved complaint procedures have been implemented. The nursing staff now receives specific education about trusting parental instincts and taking patient concerns seriously. Dr. Rodriguez, released from prison last year, works as a medical supply salesman, the only healthcare job he's eligible for with his criminal record. He sent us a letter on Emma's 2nd birthday, expressing continued remorse and gratitude that we had fought to expose the truth. "Your persistence probably prevented other families from experiencing this trauma," he wrote. "I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness, but I hope you know that I think about your courage every day and try to honor it by being a better person." I never responded to his letter, but I've kept it. Someday, when Emma is old enough to understand the full complexity of her story, she might want to read it. Mark and I have also grown stronger as a couple. Facing such an intense crisis together has given us confidence that we can handle whatever life throws at us. The financial security from our settlement has allowed us to make choices we never could have afforded otherwise, traveling extensively, supporting causes we care about, and most importantly, having time to bond with Emma and help other families in crisis. We're different people than we were before this happened, Carmen observed during our family's recent joint vacation. We're stronger, more confident, and less willing to accept things that don't feel right. She's absolutely right. The experience that nearly broke us ultimately transformed us into more effective advocates, better parents, and stronger people. And that brings me to the most important lesson of all. Today, as I watch Emma building a fort with Sophia in our backyard, I'm struck by how much our lives have changed since that terrifying moment when I first held a baby I knew wasn't mine. Emma is now a confident 5-year-old who knows her incredible birth story and is proud of how her parents refused to give up on bringing her home. The legal battles are over, the media attention has faded, but the lessons learned during those desperate first weeks continue to shape everything we do. And I want to share with you the most important truth I learned, because it could change your life too. Here it is: your instincts are not your enemy. They are your superpower. For too long, we've been conditioned to doubt ourselves when experts disagree with us. We've been taught that education and credentials matter more than gut feelings. We've been made to feel embarrassed about overreacting or being paranoid. But here's what I learned fighting for Emma: sometimes the most educated, credentialed people in the room are wrong. Sometimes institutions protect themselves instead of protecting you. Sometimes the only person who will advocate for your child is you. Last week, I received another call that proved this point. Jennifer Rodriguez from Miami, no relation to our Carmen, was crying as she described a situation that sounded heartbreakingly familiar. "Mrs. Matthews, my son was born 3 weeks ago. And something feels wrong. He doesn't look like us, doesn't respond to me the way I expected. But everyone says I'm experiencing postpartum depression. Am I crazy?" I spent 2 hours validating her concerns, sharing our story, and connecting her with resources. 3 days later, genetic testing confirmed that her baby had been switched with another family's child at Miami General Hospital. "You saved my family," she sobbed with relief. "If I hadn't found your story, I might have spent years doubting myself." This is why I'm sharing our story with you today. Not for sympathy, not for attention, but because somewhere out there, someone needs to hear that trusting their instincts is not only okay, it's essential. Emma and Sophia now understand their story as a tale of 2 families who loved them so much that they were willing to fight the entire world to make sure both girls ended up where they belonged. To them, we're not victims, we're heroes who solved the ultimate puzzle. But you want to know the real hero of this story? It's not me or Carmen or even Dr. Williams who helped expose the truth. The real hero is the voice inside every parent that whispers, "Something isn't right here." That voice saved Emma. That voice brought Sophia home. That voice has helped over 200 families through our advocacy foundation. That voice is saving families right now, in hospitals across the country, because parents are learning to trust themselves instead of automatically deferring to authority. Here's what I want you to remember: you are your child's first and most important advocate. You know your baby in ways that no doctor, no nurse, no expert ever will. You carried them for 9 months. You know their movements, their responses, their very essence. When that voice speaks up, whether it's about a switched baby, a misdiagnosis, a safety concern, or anything else involving your child, listen to it. Document what you observe. Ask questions. Demand answers. Don't let anyone shame you into silence. The system will push back. Experts will question your qualifications. People will suggest you're overreacting. Fight anyway. Because here's the truth they don't want you to know. The system needs parents who ask hard questions. Medicine needs mothers who trust their instincts. Hospitals get better when families refuse to accept that's just how things are. Emma is thriving today because I refused to accept everyone else's version of reality when it contradicted what I knew in my bones. Your children deserve that same fierce advocacy from you. I want to leave you with 3 questions that could change everything. 1. When was the last time you trusted your gut feeling about your child, even when others disagreed? 2. If something felt fundamentally wrong about your child's medical care, would you have the courage to speak up? 3. What would you do differently after hearing our story? The baby they gave me was not mine. But the daughter I fought to bring home taught me the most important lesson of my life: a parent's love is the most powerful force in the universe. Trust it. Use it. Never apologize for it. Your instincts are not paranoia. They are protection. Your questions are not annoyances. They are advocacy. Your persistence is not stubbornness. It is love in action. Emma knows that when she grows up and has children of her own, she should never doubt that voice inside her that says, something isn't right. Because that voice, that beautiful, powerful, protective parental instinct, is the reason she's home where she belongs. Trust yourself, fight for your children. And remember, you're not alone in this battle. There are hundreds of families who have walked this path before you, and we're here to support anyone brave enough to listen to their heart when their head is being told to stay quiet. Your children are counting on you to be their voice when they can't speak for themselves. Don't let them down. Now I want to hear from you. What's a time when you trusted your parental instincts against expert advice? How did it turn out? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might give another parent the courage they need to fight for their child when it matters most. And if you're facing a medical crisis with your child right now, don't suffer in silence. Reach out, ask questions, demand answers. Your baby's life might depend on your willingness to trust what you know in your heart to be true.